If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
We will not be held responsible for any hearing impairments or damage caused to you from excessive exposure to this sound.
Happy New Year from the Sackheads Radio Show. It is the 4th of January, 2015. What is this?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Good. Did you enjoy the holiday break?
Yeah. I was busy.
You said it with a sigh.
Look, I did. I enjoy. It's such a busy time with all the stuff you got to do, and I love Christmas. I really do. I love Christmas.
I absolutely love Christmas.
But New Year's has just been ridiculously busy, and I literally just flew back into town like an hour and a half before the show started. So our production meeting started like 30 minutes ago, which was awesome.
10:15.
Yeah.
We were like, yeah, I have an idea what we can talk about.
Actually, I have no idea what we're going to talk about tonight. I've actually been on mental vacation also, so it was awesome.
I know. We have... You know, it's one of those things where I think there's a lot's happened, but not anything humongous. There's the debt ceiling and
the what?
The fiscal cliff, rather.
Oh, okay.
You know, we can. This is a good one. Do you know that Al Gore sold his radio station or his TV station, their current TV?
No, I didn't.
He sold it to Al Jazeera.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, does that shock you?
Who is funded by one of the biggest originally funded by one of the biggest oil-producing nations in the world, Qatar.
Huh.
So, $100 million. He did try to sell it to Glenn Beck. Oh, I'm sorry. Glenn Beck offered to buy it, but he wouldn't sell it to him.
That's weird. Why not? Hey, we had a question.
Yeah.
Did we have a question in the chat room before?
We did.
What before the show?
This is actually a tweeted question from Rooster. It said, does the section, I believe it's 2 of the 14th Amendment, does that give the president unilateral authority
you know what?
to raise, hold on, Section 4, my mistake, Section 4.
Okay.
Unilateral authority to raise the debt ceiling.
Okay, and we were starting the show, and I just shook my head at you, but I want a chance to explain, because all I did is shake my head at you. Section 4 talks about the validity of the public debt of the United States. However, the problem with Section 4, and it's not really a problem because nowhere in Section 4 does it say the President of the United States, but Section 5 of the 14th Amendment says that the Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. So it says nothing about the President at all, and even if it did, Section 5, we can't ignore that. Well, although I know they like to ignore certain parts of the Constitution.
How can you now say they can't ignore it when they do it on a regular basis?
Yeah, but Section 5 says Congress, and it says only Congress, but it says the Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. And that is Amendment XIV, which is Roman numeral, of course, for 14. So I hope that answered our good friend's question. Now, since we kind of got on the topic of the Constitution, it's kind of interesting. I was doing some,
Wait,
what?
Before you go into this.
You don't even know what I'm going into.
No, we got yelled at because we don't do this enough. The phone number for tonight's show is 347-205-9399 if you want to call in and join the show.
Really? You're gonna give that phone number out right before I'm about to make the proclamation I'm going to make?
Well, yeah, because our producer said we never give out the phone number, so.
Now look, keep in mind, we are about, I think, to become, don't be scared. Why are you looking at me like that?
I'm not looking at you like that, I'm hiding.
Don't be scared. Look, we are about to be called a bunch of chauvinistic, woman-hating pigs. You are part of this show, my friend. Look, I came across something kind of interesting because this whole gun debate is raging, and so of course I have to go into my whole, I'm hearing all this stuff about, well, hey, they're talking about the militia as the National Guard, and that's the purpose of the Second Amendment is the National Guard, and there's actually heard this knucklehead say, you give me one good reason why anybody needs more than 10 rounds of ammunition or why anybody needs a military-style rifle, basically a mean, scary-looking gun. And, it pertains only to the National Guard, and that's it. So I said, it's not going to do – it doesn't do any good to argue with liberals and to bring up original documents. I mean, we can talk about the founders and how they defined the militia as the people as a whole and how they defined the need to maintain arms in order for the citizens to maintain their liberty.
Right.
Not only to maintain their liberty from the government and from a standing army, which they feared and which we have now, which I'm not bashing before we get a bunch of hate mail, but also to maintain their right to life.
Right.
In self-defense and so forth also. So, but this whole militia argument really bothered me because I know what the founders said about the militia, and they said it was the people themselves, the people as a whole.
The people were actually the militia.
Yes, which is, I know, kind of a weird concept. And anybody that reads a couple documents from the founding era and the original intent should be able to pick that up. But I wondered if there was any, current law on this. And I knew there was, but it'd been so long since I've researched it that I couldn't remember exactly where to find it. So I actually came up with and found a couple things, and it was a little bit interesting to me. But to put something in perspective, George Mason, who was the co-author of the Second Amendment,
right?
As weird as that sounds, so he probably knows nothing about it. But
go on.
What?
Just go on.
During Virginia's convention to ratify the Constitution, so 1788, he says, quote, I ask, sir, what is the militia? It is the whole people. To disarm the people is the best and most effectual way to enslave them.
Okay.
So he was pretty clear that the co-author of the Second Amendment during the ratification process in his state was talking about the right of the people specifically. Now, I looked up the definition of militia in current United States law. And did you know that militia is actually...
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer?
Can we sleep cooler?
Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. Your Sleep Number setting. And now it's our lowest price of the season on our top-selling i8 smart bed. Your best savings, plus free home delivery with any base. Exclusively at a Sleep Number store near you. All Sleep Number smart beds offer temperature solutions for your best sleep. Learn more at sleepnumber.com.
Defined in United States law.
Actively. As of right now in our active Constitution.
Not in the Constitution.
I'm sorry.
Defined in the United States Code.
The U.S. Code.
And I knew it was. I couldn't remember exactly where to find it. I finally found it, and here's what it says. It's 10 U.S.C. Section 311. Militia, composition, and classes. And it's a pretty quick definition. The militia of the United States consists of all able-bodied males, at least 17 years of age, and except as provided in Section 313 of Title 32, which talks about age for the National Guard, 17 to 64,
right,
and so forth. It says, so, able-bodied males at least 17 years of age and under 45 years of age who are or who have made a declaration of intention to become citizens of the United States, and of female citizens of the United States who are members of the National Guard. So the militia is able-bodied males ages 17 to 45, as well as female citizens of the United States, only those who are members of the National Guard. And then it talks about subsection B. The classes of the militia are the organized militia, which consists of the National Guard and the Naval Militia, and, parenthetical 2, the unorganized militia, which consists of the members of the militia who are not members of the National Guard or the Naval Militia. Therefore, every able-bodied male aged 17 to 45 who is not in the National Guard or Naval Militia is part of the unorganized militia. According to the United States Code, they are militia, and therefore the Second Amendment applies to them. Now,
they
which
don't
brings
even have
up
to declare themselves as a militia or form a group. Does
Nope.
not matter.
Does not matter.
We are just, you and I
Yes.
are automatically involved. We
Yes.
are automatically included in the
We are
code.
We are, according to the United States Code, we are members of the militia. Now, here's something interesting. If the Second Amendment applies to members of the militia, does that now mean that it does not apply to females unless they are, and we're going to get hate mail, unless they are citizens of the United States and members of the National Guard? Because the United States Code defines it very specifically. Able-bodied males age 17 to 45 and female citizens who are members of the National Guard. Therefore, it would seem that if your liberal argument is that it applies to militia, which is National Guard, but obviously according to the United States Code it's not, then you're also arguing that females don't have the right to bear arms.
The war on women continues.
On the left. Now,
Right,
so I said, okay, now...
God,
maybe,
I hope Andrea Kay isn't listening to the show tonight. She's going to kill us.
Now, maybe this is just kind of weird, so maybe there's other things in the United States Code that could clarify. So, Article 32 of the United States Code, Section 101, parenthetical 1 says, for purposes of other laws relating to the militia, comma, the National Guard, comma, the Army National Guard of the United States, and the Air National Guard of the United States. And then it says the term territory includes Guam, blah, blah, blah. So even in these sections that talk about other things relating to the military, the United States Code differentiates between the militia and the National Guard.
Right.
I thought...
Well, because one of the big arguments in all this has been, oh, it'll be okay if people join a militia.
Right.
Then if they're part of the militia, it's okay for them to have certain weapons.
Right.
That was the left kind of steering us around. And you know what that is they wanted us to join an organized militia so they could get more information on us.
Well,
figuring that you would have to be somewhat identified.
I don't know, but there's more.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't say there wasn't more. I would never cut you off, my friend.
No, there's a little bit more here. So 10 United States Code, Section 101, and this is talking about the reserve components of the military. And it says, hey, here are the following definitions related to the reserve components applied in this title. And this is parenthetical C, reserve components. Parenthetical 2, the term Army National Guard means that part of the organized militia of the several states and territories, Puerto Rico, District of Columbia, active and inactive. So, again, we see it differentiated in the United States Code between specifically the organized militia is what the term Army National Guard or National Guard is referring to. So their whole argument about militia and National Guard is crap, and we just proved it here. And not only that, but I think we need to have a national discussion about why the Second Amendment doesn't apply to females if you really look at it. How much hate mail are we going to get for that?
I don't even know how to respond to you right now. I really don't. There's a couple things I wanted to bring up. First of all, Rooster brought up a good point. There's age discrimination involved because he's too old to be in the militia.
Well, unless he's former military, then he can be up to age 64.
Oh.
Right?
So I believe that would cover him and any other former military. Okay. That was really my big one to bring up.
Okay. Look, clearly there's age and gender discrimination fraught. This code is fraught with age and gender discrimination. So now let's tie this into females in combat, since I know he wrote an awesome article on that.
I'm sure we will hear from Rooster as the show goes on.
Why do we not hear any of this stuff on any other show? Had you ever heard that before?
I have not heard those specific codes. And as always, I one of the joys I have of working with you is you find things that nobody else does and bring it to light. Some of it's interesting. Some of it's frightening. Some of it makes me think that you have too much time on your hands. However, I applaud you.
Well, thank you, but which is really weird because I actually have no time whatsoever. And part of me, I just have this useless knowledge because I used to not have any time whatsoever. So I just research things. But so that's kind of where my twisted mind went over the last few days. See, I take things and I just go on this weird tangent because I hear all these arguments, militia and National Guard. It's okay, dumbasses. Let's argue facts then. Let's actually research and know what the hell we're talking about.
Well, they won't. And again, it brings us to this whole argument of they're doing whatever they can. Listen, we all knew the time we were on the air that night, and that was one of the first things we brought up after the fact of the Newtown shooting, is the fact that they're going to be immediately pushing us to the front for gun control.
Of course.
We already discussed the fact that they're going to take the nudge effect with it, a little bit at a time. Oh, I'm going to take away this piece, then we're going to take away that piece, I'm going to take away that piece until it's all gone. Then they've got under this whole militia kick. Oh, well, you know what? Certain people will be allowed to keep certain weapons as long as they're part of an organized militia that gets identified in a certain training and has to be registered with the government, blah, blah, blah.
Which is the National Guard. Organized militia is defined in the United States Code.
So it brings us to now. So you've done an amazing job of arguing that fact.
Thank you. How are you going to tag this on Twitter so this segment actually
I've given up on tagging this part on Twitter.
Perfect.
I don't know.
I think you should tweet out females can't own guns or just something completely provocative. Or we find proof that the Second Amendment only applies to men and certain women or just something great.
Well, this is how we get hate mail. I love it sometimes, but you're not the one who has to answer this stuff.
No, I just choose not to.
So what do we do?
You can choose. Well, what we do is we either answer the hate mail or you can choose not to answer.
No.
That's not what you meant.
No.
Oh, okay.
What do we do going forward? They're not going to have our argument. They're not going to have the true argument as to what the Second Amendment intent was. We've discussed that before. They will stay away from that. It's a very liberal mind.
Well, that's because liberals cannot look. The liberals argue a lot of times, in my opinion, from a sense of emotion. And look, I disagree with them. I don't think most of them have ill intentions. I think some of them do. I think some of the ones in government, some of the liberals in government know exactly what the hell they're doing. I think your mill liberal U.S. citizen, they don't have the facts or know the facts or research the facts, and they buy into the stuff they hear on the media, and they vote with their heart. And look, I get it. I mean, look, take healthcare, for example. Yeah, it's a great idea. I mean, it'd be nice if everybody could have healthcare, but that's not the system we live in. It's not the federal government's job. It's not their legal authority to pass, and they did it anyways, and we all know where that went. But
and it's funny. I was away this past week, and one of the guys I was the other families that we were staying with, one of the guys was a super conservative, and I said something about fair, and his kids were there, and his kids all looked at me and went, "You can't say the F word." And I was like, the F word? It didn't click in me. And he looked at me and goes, yeah, fair. Fair is the F word. Show me where fair is in the Constitution. Some things aren't fair. That doesn't mean they're right. That doesn't mean they're wrong. But fairness has been thrown around like that is the God-given right. It's the God-given right for everything to be fair. Well, no, it's not. The world doesn't work that way. The reality doesn't work that way.
Right.
When it comes to this, if you want to argue fair, then you should say, okay, well, everyone convicted, even if you're convicted of a felony or you do this, that, you should still have right to guns. Is that fair? Because why shouldn't they be able to protect themselves? No, because we've already taken certain steps to take guns out of the hands of the bad people. It hasn't worked.
Let's talk about that.
Okay.
That's an interesting argument.
I knew this was going to spark this argument. That's why.
This is an interesting conversation, and it's one that I don't know that I've ever engaged in before.
Okay.
So let's talk about it.
And if people are on hold, we will get to them before the first break.
Are people on hold?
We do have a couple people on hold, but I want to have this argument.
No, let's get to the callers. Look, I don't think felons should be able to own firearms. Just like you have to, because, well, first of all, If they're able-bodied, 17 to 65, they can be part of the informal militia, so they can turn out. But when do your rights, and the Second Amendment we consider to be a right, we've discussed that before, your rights end when you trample on the rights of others.
Right.
And we've talked about that. And as a felon, you've committed a crime that society has deemed so serious as to be punishable by imprisonment in a state penitentiary or federal penitentiary, if it's a federal felony, as opposed to just a county jail. You can't vote and certain things. So based upon that and a propensity to take those rights away from others, I believe a fair argument can be made not to arm felons.
Yeah.
Or maybe not arm them for a certain amount of time, or whatever. How many callers do we have waiting?
We have 2 right now. We had more, but they kind of tricked it off.
I pissed them off.
You pissed them off. But that's fine. But so you look at felons, and you know we have that point. Okay, so felons, I think we can all agree, probably shouldn't possess firearms, at least depending on the felony, a certain amount of time after the fact.
Should they have the freedom of speech?
All right, that's what I'm saying. That's the slippery slope.
Do they have the right to counsel? Do they have the right against self-incrimination?
Right. They do. They have the right to all that except for firearms. Now, what if it's a non-violent felony? Embezzlement, say. They've done nothing violent ever in their life.
Right.
They embezzle money. Say they're 21 and they're working at, McDonald's, and they're the shift manager, and they embezzle $1,000 over a period of X, Y, and Z. They get convicted of a felony.
Okay.
So they can now not possess a firearm.
Right.
In most
or vote.
Or vote.
Right.
However, age 50, that person has paid their debt to society, and now they are out. Age 50, it's been 20-something years since they've done 29 years.
They can't own a firearm.
Still can't own a firearm.
How's about that? Okay. Versus the guy who's 36 years old, engages in some kind of child pornography or some other kind of offense that may be a misdemeanor in some states.
But heinous,
and definitely could show a propensity towards violence or to do something heinous.
Yeah.
And
that's kind of like pulling the legs off the insect or the torturing of the small animal. It's been identified as one of those lines towards violence.
So now you're allowing that person to have a firearm?
That's what it's
interesting point.
Is it fair, though? I go back to that F word. What is fair? Nothing. In reality.
Nothing's fair.
Right. You have to play by the rules. We're a nation of laws, which we've discussed before.
You realize I'm going to have to chew on this whole felon argument.
I am so glad I spun you on this
because I knew. Well, it's really.
I wanted to have this the last show, and I never got to.
It's really interesting because if you have rights that are given to you by God, and we've discussed this, so you have rights that are given to you by God, and we have the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, certain things that people have. You have a right to self-defense and self-preservation. That is a God-given right. You have the right to life. That is a God-given right. Now, granted, that can be taken away in certain circumstances, capital punishment, but that is through due process,
right,
which is maintaining your constitutional protections throughout.
Absolutely.
So why would the Second Amendment
be any different?
Other than the fact that it's a dangerous weapon, but
what isn't a dangerous weapon?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. I understand per se designed as a dangerous weapon versus a tool implemented as a dangerous weapon. I understand the difference of that, but I almost feel it's that hard which way to go with it, because on one hand I'm like, you know what? If they can't be allowed to have a weapon, or if the belief is if they have a firearm that they're going to commit a crime and that's why they're not, then why do we even let them out? Because they can use, if they're going to use that tool, that weapon, or that firearm as a weapon, then what's going to keep them from using anything else as a weapon?
Let's be honest. How many of them have illegal weapons that they've possessed?
Oh gosh, it happens all the time.
They're criminals.
There was a shooting in Sacramento on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Right in the middle of festivities, 50,000.
Sacramento, California.
Yeah. 50,000 people around right in the middle of festivities. There was a shooting, 2 people dead, 5 people shot total. Gun was stolen.
No.
Felon was not supposed to be in possession of it.
No. That can't happen because
we have a law forbidding it.
Because we have a law forbidding it.
Absolutely.
So I'm pretty sure those facts are screwed up somewhere.
We're up against the break. Do you want to take a call?
Let's take one call.
All right.
I'm going to go take a break while you take this call.
Oh, come on. Hey, Sackheads Radio, you're on the air.
Hello?
Hello? Hey, how are you?
Yeah, how you doing?
Good. Do you have a question?
Well, I have a question and comment. I mean, you guys have been rolling today. I have a question and comment. I mean, you guys have really good, strong topics. You know, a lot of things. But, well, first of all, how can I want to tackle that word fair, that terminology real quick, and just talk about militia. I'm not going to take a lot of your time. Okay?
Okay, I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Well, see, if I'm an alien, I come on the planet Earth and I come to America, and I ask 10 people, 10 Americans, I say, what does this word mean, right? And if I ask all these 10 people and I get 10 different mental pictures of what this word means, right?
Yes.
There is no definition of that word.
Fair.
Right. No. I'm talking about every word. If I get 10 different mental pictures, right, there's no reference to that word in this world, and it has no meaning. Now, when I think of fairness, fairness is on the borderline of that. Because when I think of having fairness, I want to end all contradictions. When you have a contradiction,
it's one of those words that it's in the eye of the beholder versus the dictionary term.
Well, yeah, but see, most words is in the eye of the beholder, which means it has no meaning. But see, the word fair, you can strive for fairness when you end contradictions. When something, if I say something, if I say you can't do it, but I can do it, that's a contradiction. You're going to say I'm not treating you fair. So we end all contradictions, there's peace, right? But see, when we deal with thought in our society, right, and when we deal in terminology that means nothing and only divides us, we're in chaos. So that's the society that we live in, right? But see, let's talk about this militia that you were talking about. Right?
Okay.
See, a lot of people don't see you. I appreciate because you guys are dealing with facts, and this is the stuff that we do not hear on TV, and because we always want to be divided. Now, let's talk about when I visualize. You can give me all the definitions.
Hold on, I don't want to cut you off, but you made a really good point. You just said we're always going to be divided. Do you believe that we always have to be divided?
No, but see, the only reason why no, we don't have to, but we have to start from fact. See, the only reason, if we deal, like if I say, if anybody does something to me that enslaves me and hurt me, it stems from fear, right? If I say that, that's a fact, that's an actuality, because all of us have fear in us. It's not because of no racism. It doesn't exist. Look up at the definition of racism. The definition of racism is one race is superior than another. You cannot prove that in no science, no mankind. It can never prove that. Right? It stems from fear if no one wants to live around you. But see, this is actuality. That's not a theory I just said, right? But see, if we talk about that, no, it's not a concept. It's a fact. Now, see, if we talk about that, the reason why we don't want to talk about that as people, because we're all the same. And see, we want to divide. We are. We are all the same because we have to come from the same source of energy. Okay, we have to be from source. Now, all humanity throughout time, all of us have came to help each other. All of the races helped each other whether you want. I mean, we needed all races: the Egyptians, the Arabs, the Europeans, everybody, the Africans. All of us needed each other to cultivate. Right. I mean, and it brings us to this point now. But see, look, I'm in technology. Technology is the only thing that advances around mankind. We, psychologically and socially, black, white, Indian, we never get together. We never grow. We never update. Technology does. Because if you notice, we always argue about the same things over and over again. You know why? Because we're talking in the same way. No. We're talking in the same way. We're not changing our dialogue. But the separation in powers... What the forefathers had of the separation of powers, let me tell you something. Don't you know you have some states who want to separate from the United States government?
Yeah.
A militia can happen at any time. That picture that they gave you, that definition, they painted a picture. Now, that can be updated because, look, when I hear people call about the NRA, oh, that's a militia. Well, as soon as you say the NRA is a militia, you're saying that the Second Amendment should stand. So you're contradicting yourself. See, it's about the contradictions. See, I listen to people very closely, and I divide things up in two ways in the world, fact and theory. I stay on the fact side, and all these words that people make up every day. I bet you tomorrow when you get on the internet, they'll make up another word that came up that divides us, that doesn't mean anything. No, I'm saying. Now, if I tell, now listen, when I speak to this to other people, they think I need to go into a hospital, but they're in total chaos. They're in total chaos.
I like your point of fact versus theory. I think that's actually a really good discussion.
It's not a point, sir. But see, when I make a point, I'm giving my opinion. I'm not giving my opinion. This is actuality that me and you both can see. This is not an opinion. This is not a theory. This is not the forefathers. You see what I'm saying? The forefathers done the best that they could to have the best theory to keep us peace. Right? But see, we don't want to look up the definitions and what stuff really means. Now, the separation of powers is never, that's what you're basically talking about, fear. The separation of power from Satan, the federal government. That's why the forefathers is actuality. Look at what look in their definition and look what.
Sorry, we're up against a break. It was a fun call, but we're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hey folks, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for making this country and our communities a better and safer place. God bless.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. You know, we often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school boards, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, Politigal Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at PoliticalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out PoliticalNetwork.com or Twitter at PoliticalUSA.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. If you want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis, that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. conservativeoutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at HomefrontHugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. HomefrontHugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to HomefrontHugs.com. Tell them Sackheads Radio sent you.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women in uniform of the armed forces. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our... God.
You going to mention me this time?
Thank you, Sean. You said mention you, right?
Oh.
You totally need to keep that as an outtake.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
And we are back with the show. We had a good call going into the break, but we did want to pick up.
I liked him.
I liked him a lot too, actually. I hope he wasn't insulted that we were up against the break like that, because he brought up a good, interesting point we talked about at the break.
Yeah.
I like the fact versus theory argument. There's a lot of things in theory that we accept as facts, and a lot of facts that we accept as theory. So that's a decent argument to have.
I'm drinking coffee right now.
That is a fact.
That
not
is
just
fact.
a theory. In theory, I am 6'2" and really thin. Because nobody can see me except for you.
Right.
And you'd back that up for me.
Absolutely.
The fact is,
I'm a brother.
The fact is, I'm not. I'm short and fat and bald. So
you are not bald.
I'm close. I'm really close. So to pick up our argument,
and I would call you big boned.
We were talking about the whole militia thing, and then it spun off into felons being able to have firearms, and the whole argument. At what point do we have to? At what point are certain felonies, despite age and when it happened, do you say, well, maybe it's not a crime of violence? They've done nothing at all violent ever in their
maybe
past.
after their term of parole or sentence or whatever is up, their debt to society is theoretically paid, as long as it's not a violent, or I would even venture to say maybe narcotics, because of how that can.
They're
affect
very
the
much
mind
related
and so
to
forth.
firearms sometimes. And before
violence.
Before everyone turns around and says, Sackhead Sean's lobbying for felons to have guns, that's not what I'm saying.
No, you are. I just heard it right here. I think that'd be fair to go out. Look, hey, listen, let's go big, okay?
Okay.
The Second Amendment doesn't apply to women unless you're in the National Guard, and felons should all have guns. You heard it here.
According to the U.S. Code. Where is the line? Because, listen, I know we're on here on the West Coast. In this state, they're probably going to come for every gun we have anyhow. They're already passing all these ridiculous laws. Or they're going to work into it soon.
Look, it's, and the federal government is trying to do a lot. Look at Feinstein's bill she just introduced for gun control. This is the third show we're talking about gun control.
It's that big of a deal, though. It's not going away. And I know
it's not, but look, we can only give so much information out here and talk about it. Look, I hate seeming like I'm just on the repeater, like it's the same show over and over again, and that's why we kind of threw out some other stuff and kind of took a militia angle at the time, but still going back to the founders. Look at Chicago right now. Chicago has some of the toughest gun laws in the nation, but they're leading the nation in gun violence statistics.
Yeah, and D.C. wasn't too far behind, but they just, the Heller case came, and up until, and I don't know the exact date, but I know up until they really got strict on firearms in D.C., the crime wasn't as bad. And I know our good friend, the Exceptional Conservative, shows in the chat room. He's going to give me specific dates because I believe that's where he is hailing from.
Nice.
But that's a trend that has continued through this country time and again. You cut down on firearms and you restrict the average person from maintaining and keeping them and carrying them. Crime goes up. So
violent crime.
Mm-hmm. And one way or the other, not just firearms, all the way around, because people know that people are defenseless. And in a lot of places where guns are not restrictive, it's down.
Look, I couldn't help myself this last week because I actually heard this individual discussing how if all the guns were gone from this country, if they were all illegal, we would not have any mass killings.
Not at all.
At schools.
Nope.
And so I proceeded to interject as my wife was trying to pull me away. I said, just hang on a second, honey. I see an educational moment, right?
Which you love to take.
Which I love to take.
You're a teacher.
And I said, hey, excuse me, sir. I couldn't help but overhear a comment. I hope you don't mind me interrupting, but I just wanted to let you know that China has had a run of school killings with edged weapons. As a matter of fact, the same day as Sandy Hook, 22 students were stabbed and slashed at a school in China, and China has some of the strictest gun control legislation in the world. Private citizens can't own firearms. You look at the statistics, matter of fact, you can get them off the internet pretty easily about school stabbings and slashings in China through a 2-year period.
It's astronomical right now.
2-year period, and I believe it exceeds that of the school shootings in the United States. I said, hey, just something for you to look into. And his mouth fell open and he looked at me like, are you freaking kidding me? And I kind of walked away with kind of a smug look on my face and went back to my table. And then I actually signed a napkin, Sackhead Clint, and gave it to him. Anyways.
And it's funny, I had an argument too and everyone was getting into the new liberal thing is, we don't want to take guns away from everyone, just assault weapons. So
assault weapon is a made-up term.
I know, but so
it's a theory.
It is a theory versus
it's not a fact.
That's where that caller was right. But that's their thing. So it's not. It's the nudge, as we talked about before. It's not, hey, we're going to take them all from you because people would go insane. But we just want to take this little bit.
They've been
as
taking
they
a
quote
little
unquote
bit for years.
This little bit, and I got upset, and then I recanted, and I said, how come you won't have my argument? I was arguing with the liberal.
Your argument?
And they said, what do you mean? I said, well, my argument versus ARs or whatever is, why don't we look at the true intent of the Second Amendment and discuss that, and then if you want to repeal the Second Amendment, go down that road completely, but state your true intention, nut up a little bit, say, hey, you know what? We are coming after your guns, whether you like it or not, and we're going to do everything we can to get them out of your hands.
And what did he say?
Well, no, that's not what we want. I said, no. So let's argue about the intent of the Second Amendment, and I started to discuss that. Well, I don't want to take guns away from everybody, but don't you feel that these guns, the assault weapons, quote unquote, are the problem and that we should restrict on who has them? And I said, have my argument. Have my argument. The intent of the Second Amendment, the first and major thing, was to protect the people from a tyrannous government.
From tyranny. It was self-preservation. That included
right. So why don't you discuss
government.
that side with me? Well, no, I'm not saying, and they just kept going. I said, so you want me to have your argument,
exactly.
And I'm a loon because I won't have your argument, and I think you're wrong,
yeah.
But you're completely dead on by not having my argument, and that's fair. This coming from the quote-unquote fair side, and then I got yelled at because it was the same house I used the F word in earlier.
That's okay.
What? But at some point, the GOP has to nut up. And somebody has to say, no, you know what, we're not having your ridiculous, stupid argument. You're not coming for our guns. It's not going to happen. You want to do something? Mental health. Stuff like that. You can keep these weapons out of the hands of the mentally insane to a point. It's not going to be a perfect system. There is no such thing. But I refuse to trust the government to take care of something when the things that are already on their table aren't taken care of. Border Patrol we talked about last week, drugs, a whole bunch of other things. They can't even balance a budget.
They can't handle the truth.
And you expect me to now put something else into their hands? No, it's not going to happen. The government,
something else into their hands like guns? You don't want to put guns in their hands.
Right. Well, according to, the vice president can't have one, right?
No, that's true. The vice president is specifically prohibited under the United States Code from being a member of the National Guard or the militia. Did you know that?
No, I did not.
Yeah. Nobody. See, they even don't want Biden involved.
They even know that Biden's too crazy for a gun.
That's right. You know what I want to know? I want to see Congress reaffirm. They did something in 1986 that was awesome. The 80s were actually pretty cool. I mean, Reagan, gotta love him. But Congress actually,
minus clothing and certain music.
Oh no, we're including that linoleum. And I think it's great.
Did you grow up with?
I think it's great that you have your breakdancing linoleum framed in your garage.
Dude, it's still in my trunk.
And autographed. I think that was so awesome.
I can windmill like
along with your pair of Pumas.
In my parachute pants?
Yes.
Hey, let me ask you this, and you and I are the same age with children of the 80s. Did you have more paneling in your house than you knew what to do with? The awful wood brown paneling?
I'm trying to think. I did not.
That should be outlawed.
My grandparents did. As a matter of fact, my grandparents did, and they lived in Hawaii, so they had a little bit of it. And my other grandparents, when they moved over here to the mainland, they actually had a lot of it.
Okay. I think paneling should be outlawed. And I'll tell you why. Because when you're 15 and you're locked in your room because you're punished for a month, that is it should be in every prison. They should panel the wall of every prison because that is the most depressing thing on the face of the planet to stare at.
Well, not only that, but push pins don't work very well in it.
No.
Right? How are you supposed to hang your picture of Alyssa Milano? Seriously, I know you had one. Sports Illustrated swimsuit cutouts, right?
Oh, gosh.
Look, Congress in the 80s passed the Firearm Owners Protection Act in 1986 that actually talked about how Congress finds that the rights of the citizens to keep and bear arms and blah, blah, blah shouldn't be infringed, and Congress should do what it needs to do in order to protect that.
And hopefully they will wise up.
And then they didn't. I would like to see Congress get some testicular fortitude and pass something like that again, like the House. Hey, the conservatives, the Republicans, control the House right now. Put that forward and word it something to the effect of hey, we recognize the Second Amendment. We recognize the United States Code and the definition of militia and organized militia. Mm-hmm. And the House of Representatives, Congress, recognizes the individual rights of the citizens to keep and bear arms pursuant to the Second Amendment, and put something like that out. And then go in and talk about it if you want. Hey, the need for national defense, the need for personal protection so people can exercise their God-given right to life in personal self-defense, that kind of thing in there. I'd like to see something like that. They won't do it, though.
Well, it never happened now, and that's the problem.
Or even for the protection of our kids. Hey, you have more armed citizens, or maybe an armed principal or somebody in the schools who could have taken action, like that principal at Sandy Hook. Mm-hmm. She confronted that the killer and ended up getting shot for her efforts. What if she had a gun and put a couple rounds down range? That would have got his attention.
Well, you know what?
And I can say that because there was an active shooter, I believe it was in Oregon, where a private citizen with a concealed weapons permit, the shooter began firing his weapon. The guy pulled his concealed weapon, went to engage the shooter, and the shooter saw him. The guy didn't fire because there were some other people in the backdrop. He didn't want to hit somebody innocent. The guy went into a stairwell and committed suicide because he was a coward and didn't want that armed confrontation.
Well, and another point was that shooting in Sacramento, California, like I was talking about, an employee of the bar had a weapon and started firing.
Oh, so an agent of the government?
No, he was an employee of the bar.
So he was a private citizen?
Yeah.
That's weird.
And he started firing back and hit the first bad guy. There was apparently two bad guys from what I read.
Okay.
And it caused him to completely stop firing and start trying to leave, in which he followed him out. So
he stopped the violence. Here's
another instance of armed citizens stopping the violence. And it goes to show you that you can have all the liberal left, because left and liberal are now a word for me, so it's just liberal. Leftable. You can have all the gun control you want, but the bad guys are still going to have it. And law enforcement, the government, they're not going to be there to stop them every single time.
Well, obviously not. I mean, look at the population versus the amount of law enforcement out there. And look I love gun control. I use two hands.
You're amazing at it.
I am. I properly index my magazines. I can, I can tell
you what a sear set is.
Yeah, I can control my firearm.
And you are outstanding at it. So I'm going to take a call right now, because why not?
Why not?
I'm
going to take a break.
All right, we'll see Clinton in a minute. Sackheads Radio, you're on the air. What's your question? Hello?
No. Thanks for calling.
Hello?
Hey, what's your question?
Oh, yeah, I got kicked off. Look, I'm going to ask you guys a question, right? I'm not going to give no long spill comment. I'm going to ask you guys a question, right? Okay. Now, and I think I said this before the line, right? Okay, the clear picture of this militia stuff, right? And it's all about the separation of the powers of the federal government and the state government. I don't, a lot of people in our country, they're scared to talk about that, because once again in our government, it's a contradiction. And I think
so. What's your question?
Right. Well, my question is: do you actually think that a militia could to come in, a state can overthrow the government? Just the way it is by having some states saying that I want to take my allegiance away from the United States. Some states are having petitions to do that.
Right.
So that concept, it can possibly happen. People are saying that in the present time, a militia can never happen. A militia can happen at any time. Am I correct?
We're getting feedback, but we're going to answer your question. I don't want to get the feedback and miss it.
Okay. So A militia is we already defined what that is. Every able-bodied male between the ages of 17 and 45, and then there's some exceptions in there up to age 64 with prior military service. I'm talking about the National Guard. And then the militia includes those females who are in the National Guard. So the militia already exists. It is us. It is the American people. Look, I don't advocate the overthrow of the government at all. Don't advocate it. I don't want to see another revolution. I don't want to see bloodshed. That's not what we're about here on the show. We're not about violence or anything like that. However, the question was, can it happen? And look, we had 13 colonies that took on the British Empire, one of the strongest powers in the world at the time, and turned that internal civil war essentially into a world war. The British brought the Germans in. The United States brought the Dutch in and started getting funding from the Dutch. The Indian nation became involved, and then France actually came in and joined the war. The war extended all the way into the Caribbean and was literally fought on a global scale. So the United States, 13 colonies, the United States was born out of states rising up against an oppressive government and successfully throwing that government off. Look what happened in Vietnam. And I point to the American Revolution, and where we have guerrilla-style tactics being used against a major organized military force. The Civil War, the South could have won the Civil War. The North did win. We already had one Civil War in this country, and God forbid it ever happen again. So can it happen? If we're talking in a theoretical sense, yes, it could happen. It's happened before in history.
Fact again?
Theory versus fact. But the fact, we're not going to know for sure unless it ever did happen again. So that's my kind of long answer. But again, to be clear, because I don't want anybody listening to the show to think that we're calling for any type of uprising or anything like that.
Secession or violence.
Because we're absolutely not. But we do understand that there is a movement within the United States, and petitions have been sent to the White House for states to secede from the Union. And, the federal government would have a choice to make. Do they let them go, or is a civil war, again, fought? I pray that it doesn't come to that. So that's kind of my long answer.
Well, and to switch gears, and then we'll probably close out the gun control topic for the first hour and move into the second hour. We'll talk about the fiscal cliff and a couple other things. But really quick, out of New York, there's a newspaper that you love this already. Pardon me. There was a newspaper that printed the names and addresses of all the concealed weapon holders in that county or that area, or in 2 counties, I think it was. Somebody asked me this question and said, outside of the fact that they're trying to shame those gun owners, trying to change the opinion of their friends who maybe did not know they owned weapons, and to try to somehow intimate that they're a proponent or a sponsor of gun violence just by virtue of owning a weapon, what was the purpose of that?
You know what the purpose was. Why are you're asking a question that you already know.
I just want to see if you have a different opinion than I do.
Look, the purpose of that was clear. It was for the newspaper is obviously a liberal newspaper.
A lefty.
They left-leaning, in my opinion. They don't support the Second Amendment. They don't like private ownership of guns, and they printed these names of people to either or both shame and embarrass them, or to so that they do become targets of harassment,
burglaries
perhaps. So maybe now they become in fear of their safety, their family's safety, or the security of their property, so they sell their firearms because they're afraid of being victimized or burglarized or something of that nature. I believe that was the intent of it, to ridicule and support. But there's been a side thing that has come out on that. Law enforcement names were on that list
Mm-hmm.
because it's public records. They're saying public information,
Right,
but
Public Information Act, all that crap.
right. Which hey, I get, but it was the intent behind this that really has me angry because there are inmates. There was a report, and I don't remember exactly where I saw the report, but there's a report from the Rockland County sheriff, the sheriff, and I don't have his name in front of me, but he said,
call him Hank.
Hank. He has his officers in the jail have inmates coming up to him and basically telling these officers what their address is.
Yeah, see, that's not frightening.
And there are other police departments where they've had other issues also where basically these bad guys are looking up these cops' addresses.
Yeah, now they have that link.
Yeah.
I wanted to go on.
And I'm sorry to interrupt before I forget this. Here's why that's dangerous. There has been, and it's happened not just once or twice, there have been law enforcement officers assassinated at their residence. There was in California, there was actually a run of them a few years ago where there was like 3 or 4, I believe. There was a few of them that they were killed at their house or in front of their residence or whatnot. So this isn't some, they're just being paranoid. This has happened before.
One of the theories that I took to this when I saw it is, you know what they're looking for? They're looking for these people to become burglary victims, and then gun violence is going to go up with those stolen guns, and then they can turn around and say, well, they can't even properly maintain their weapons safely. Look at all these guns from just these 2 counties in the last 6 months that were stolen and used in violent crimes. And so now even quote-unquote responsible gun owners aren't being responsible gun owners because they're allowing themselves to be burglarized.
And I'll even go to the core of the issue and say that this is the reason why government regulation and registration is so dangerous. Because now we have the government requiring registration of private property, which would be a firearm, registration of private property just for simple possession. It's not like a vehicle where you're using a publicly maintained roadway. There is nothing about owning a firearm where you utilize a public anything. So now you require that firearm to be registered, and that registration, because it is a government document, now becomes a matter of public record and is releasable. And the core issue it comes back to is government regulation, because if there was no government regulation of this private property that they have no business in regulating or requiring a registration for something, that is the core of the issue, because without that, you wouldn't have this list popping up. It is nobody's business what private property somebody owns. So I'm going to take the argument out of the whole the paper shouldn't have done it and just put it right back onto the core of the issue. This wouldn't have happened if the regulations weren't there.
Now, let me ask you this question, and we're going to start jumping a little bit. Say there's a burglary in one of those homes.
Yep.
A weapon is stolen.
I would hold that paper responsible.
And
I don't know whether they can.
If it depends on the state law. But if when arrested after the crime, the criminal says, hey, you know what, the only reason I knew where that gun was is because it was put in the newspaper.
Yep.
Do you now have a lawsuit?
I don't know. Look, I don't.
Oh, by the way, that newspaper now has armed guards in front of it.
They shouldn't, though, because they.
Which I think is kind
why
of
would you work there as an armed guard? Because they just publish your name and address that you have a gun. And
you must drive in from another county.
Might get stolen, and then you couldn't protect that paper. Weird. Here's what I would say, and I don't know, but I would suspect that, let's say that firearm was stolen and was used to commit a murder.
Okay.
And that suspect said, yeah, I stole that gun because I knew that gun was at that house. So I broke into that house to steal a gun specifically. I would think that the family of the murdered victim might have a lawsuit against that paper because it's, in my opinion, it's reckless. I don't know whether that's the case or not. I'm qualifying that. I'm not an attorney in New York. I have no idea what their laws are regarding that or civil lawsuits, but I would think that you could make that case.
It would be interesting.
And then the paper's going to hide behind, not hide behind, but they're going to say, hey, First Amendment, Public Information Act, we did nothing wrong, and you know
right.
what?
We just wanted
whatever bullshit line they're going to throw out.
And that brings me to the next step of morally responsible reporting.
Exactly.
At what point do the people start holding these newspapers morally responsible? Listen, I don't think we have freedom of the press. I don't think the government should step in. I agree with you that this information never should have been released by the government. But at what point do the people
this information should not be possessed by the government.
Exactly. But at what point do people need to really start holding these media outlets, us included, on, if you disagree?
Absolutely.
Turn us off. Morally responsible. There's a moral responsibility. And if you're just in it, like, listen, I can't wait to see what current TV owned by Al Jazeera is going to be right now. Because if you went any further left, you'd be right again. Like, I'm not
going to watch it.
But you've had so many different things recently be reported. Benghazi is the biggest one on the top of my tongue. Wrong facts.
On the top of your tongue?
It tipped my tongue.
Okay.
Inappropriate facts, wrong facts, facts that weren't necessarily true. Things that some of it brought upon the government itself because of things that they said that they shouldn't have, but some of it was just complete made-up BS from some of these newspapers. And then afterwards said, oh, we misunderstood what so-and-so said. When can we hold him, Chris Matthews, somebody hold him responsible for his BS? And we as the people need to start doing that more and more.
You know what? That's what sells. That's what sells. It's like these Hollywood actors and actresses that come out and make these movies with all these gun scenes and action adventure, and then they do that.
They do that YouTube video.
Yeah, about violence is look. They have a right to do it. They're entertainers. That's fine. Hey, if that's what sells movies, I think that's a problem. That's what sells movies. But hey, they're in there to make money. That's their job. That's fine. And then I support their First Amendment right to step out. I think it's hypocritical, but they have a right to do it. Bottom line is, if people didn't watch those types of movies, they wouldn't make those types of movies. If people didn't read these newspapers and take this stuff into account, they wouldn't be in business. We still have to remember that it is a business.
Yeah, no, I get it.
These media outlets are a business, and it is the people's responsibility to fact check and to get their facts straight. And honestly, it's the public's job as the consumers
to hold them responsible
by not purchasing their paper, listening to their show, whatever the case may be. Look, in the area I live, there's a newspaper that is very far left, and where there's a lot of things they have not reported fairly. As a matter of fact, there have been things that I believe are just outright lies, and I choose not to get that paper. Matter of fact, when I get the little school kid, I kind of feel bad. When I get a little school kid that comes by and says, hey, you want to support my school and buy this paper? I say, nope, there's no way I'm ever buying that paper. I'm sorry. Come back when you're selling candy. But it's for my school. I don't care.
Yeah, sorry.
I pay taxes to support your school.
I've already paid.
Do you go to a charter school? Do you go to a private school? No, you don't? Okay, I already support your school. And my kids don't even go there. Get out of here. I'm just kidding.
All right, well, let's take a break. We come back. We have to get into the fiscal cliff at some point, and talk about that for a little bit. And who knows what else we're going to talk about.
We'll be back.
New Year, the brand new year with Sackheads Radio. Phone number, if you want to call in, thank you, 347-205-9399. Clint's going to put his side of the studio back together, and we're going to take a break.
How did that even happen?
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hey folks, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for making this country and our communities a better and safer place. God bless.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. You know, we often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school boards, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, POLITIGAL Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at PolitigalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out PolitigalNetwork.com or Twitter at PolitigalUSA.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. You want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis? That is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. conservativeoutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on conservativeoutcry.net.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at HomefrontHugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. HomefrontHugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to HomefrontHugs.com. Tell them Sackheads Radio sent you.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women in uniform of the armed forces. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our... God.
You going to mention me this time?
Thank you, Sean. You said mention you, right?
Oh.
You totally need to keep that as an outtake.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
And we are back. 347-205-9399 is the phone number if you want to chime in about any of our topics or if you have something interesting to discuss.
I have something interesting to discuss.
Okay.
Why did female listeners leave the chat room after I talked about my segment about the militia?
I have no idea. I didn't talk to them. I was busy talking to you.
Seriously. And did I not tell you this was going to happen?
I know. We're going to be demonized for something that we were just relaying the information.
We were relaying the information only. I didn't write the law. I sure as hell didn't write the Constitution.
No, we're not that old. Rooster might have been involved in that, but if that doesn't get him to call in,
I'm pretty sure he marched with Washington.
Hey, and when we started the show, we talked about our what we did over the break, and I got into it a little bit. But you know how nice it is? Because I don't know about you, I have a lot of friends that are center, slightly left-leaning, slightly right-leaning, and I respect them in their opinion. I don't necessarily agree with them, whatever. I was away, and I'm going to say hi to my friends Dennis, Paulette, and their daughter Sandy. That we were away with for the weekend was all conservatives. And it was so nice to be in a place where I could actually speak my mind and not be turned into this evil deviant who, oh my God, if you're, when we're on gun control or you must be against, children going to school safely, talking about fiscal cliff and all that. Oh, you must just want the poor people to suffer more and the rich to get richer. But none of that. It's so nice to occasionally be surrounded by good company.
You know what?
And I don't mean that my friends are bad company, but it's nice to actually not have to argue.
You know what? I do that too. I have a place like that. It's my Connex box that I threw a cot in out in the middle of the wilderness. I don't have any friends, and as a matter of fact, I just fly in for the show only. So, I look. I'm one of those people where I have very few friends, but the friends I have, I'm very close with. I would trust them with my life. Mm-hmm. For example, you.
Right.
Socko, don't look at me. And
just put your head back in the computer, Socko.
I still refuse to give you my address. No, I'm kidding. But
wait. So you lied to me when I asked you to put me on the emergency contact list.
Absolutely. Listen, when I show
you... If you call that number, first of all, Socko, any number that starts with 976 isn't somebody's personal phone number. I keep trying to tell you that.
And why do you keep calling it?
You're running up my phone bill in the studio like mad. Why is it 500-976 call, Sacco? Well, I was trying to call Clint because I had a light bulb out and I didn't know I needed the emergency contact to replace it.
Wait, hang on. Told you, field stripped and put back together in under a minute and a half.
Will you take the blindfold off now? We have a show to do.
Okay, sorry. Are we back on the air?
We are back on the air. So something amazing happened over the break. We we fell off of it for technically a day, the fiscal cliff. Now, I've read through some of it, and I've decided that the Republicans...
I love that sound.
The Republicans were much like a sheep facing a cliff.
I think I see where you're going with it.
It didn't matter what was behind them. They were going to back up onto it anyhow.
You talking about Boner?
Oh, God, did we... Oh, by the way, who got reelected as Speaker of the House?
Does that surprise you? So, think about it. We talked about this before, and I think I predicted he was going to get reelection.
Yes.
Because if they split the vote,
right,
Pistol Grip might have been able to get in.
Right.
And there was no way they were going to let Pistol Grip get in.
Nope.
Now, I want to talk about Eric Cantor's no vote.
Okay.
He's, second, I believe, second in command to Boner.
Yep.
And I think he voted no, number one, because he believes in his vote. But number two, I think he had to show that a portion of the Republican leadership thought the bill was crap.
Yes.
And I like him.
I like Cantor, too.
But I have to give Boner a little bit of props since he swore at Harry Reid after Harry Reid called him a dictator.
Yeah, well, Harry Reid...
What did he call him? Did he call him an MF? Because if he did, that is great.
I don't know exactly what they called him. I saw it in blurbs. I didn't see
And why would that leak out? I mean, I think it's funny. Yeah, he shouldn't act that way. But
yeah, but you know what?
The guy accused him of being a dictator.
Right. And why can't you act that way? And I know, because it's Congress and professional and this, that. But, why shouldn't you be allowed to speak your mind? If they can call you a dictator, if certain people who are on the left and in the higher ups power can essentially go after the right with anything that they want, why can't you throw an MF at Harry Reid? Why is he so special? I mean, he's special, all right, but he's not special in the sense that he should be called an MF. I've called him an MF numerous times.
Yeah, so have I, but we're not an elected official.
So
we're not
what?
supposed to be above that.
You're still a human being. You still have emotions. You can still get upset about it. And you know what? If somebody called me a dictator, they're lucky if they get away with just an MF.
Right.
I wish I was a dictator. I'm sure the only person that thinks so is my dogs. But outside of that, it's a non-story story. Again, once they're just trying to demonize the right as we go on. So the fiscal cliff came and went. We were saved at the last minute, and I say that sarcastically, by the vote. And one of the things too that Obama's been boasting is that middle-class families will not have to pay upwards of $2,000 or more in taxes this year. That's accurate, and I'm getting my facts from factcheck.org on this one. I've done a little bit of research, but 77% of taxpayers will pay more this year. That's just going to happen, and
that's weird.
It's going to be nearly $1,200 more.
Is that
for
because of
those
the health care bill?
I believe it's part of it, and then this new deal. Those earning between $75,000 and $100,000 would be the definition of middle class. Will have to pay that $1,200 more. So yeah, it won't be $2,000, but it's going to be $1,200 more.
But the Tax Policy Center estimated that 77% of Americans are going to be paying more in taxes in 2013 than they did in last year, 2012. But I believe that they think it's because of the payroll tax.
Right. I think you're right. Which was allowed to, it didn't get carried over, if I believe. It's going to go up.
Yes.
So they were looking for billions. I think he got, 800 million in savings instead of the $4 trillion, or billion rather, instead of the $4 trillion. The payroll tax expired, the cut, so that's going to go up. So essentially they got boned.
Well, yeah, because the 2-year reduction in the Social Security payroll tax expired. Gone. So you're going to have less in your paycheck.
No, either way, how you look at it.
Awesome. Good job. You know what? The best thing you can do is to raise taxes while we're trying to fight off a recession. That's one of the best things you can do, right?
That's brilliant, right?
It's not. No.
What?
Okay.
No. So what did we get out of this? I've looked for the positive in this. Like, hey, you know what? Maybe there's been something in there. Maybe it's I don't see anything that's saving us. I just see most people getting taxed more, with the exception of the lower half.
Mm-hmm.
If you make over $400,000 a year, or $450 if you're a couple, you're going to pay way more. But it's expected. There it is, $620 billion. He was talking about saving $4 trillion. Not even close. But yet these taxes still had to go through. And when I say we, I mean the conservatives signed it and allowed it, instead of just letting us go off the fiscal cliff, which probably would have been the best thing going. Because you know what? I think we had to hit bottom as a nation before we could turn around and bounce back up again. And everybody should have felt it. Now, instead, the only people feeling it are those making more than $400,000, which we talked about. A lot of those folks are small business owners that file the taxes on their business as individuals.
Well, here's the thing that's funny is Obama claims to avert that income tax hike on everybody.
Oh, yeah.
And the way he does that is by saying that without his action that the Bush tax cuts, they didn't expire, so hey, look I saved this tax increase. But what's funny is in order to try and take credit for cutting the deficit, like you said, he's using the exact opposite argument.
Yeah.
Which is hey, the tax cuts that would have been extended for everyone. I just how do you argue it both ways? I know how you do because you're a freaking attorney. But
exactly. You're a politician and an attorney.
Yeah.
It's your job to argue.
You know what? Let's have a constitutional amendment that says if you're a freaking attorney, you cannot run for public office. How's that? You know what we would get? We might get some people that actually care about this country and want to serve. But I think what else we would get is we would get laws that everybody could understand.
Yeah. Well, not like...
what do you think this gun law is going to be when they put it out? Nobody's going to be able to understand it.
No, and that's the
Look
way
at the healthcare bill.
The healthcare bills like that. Look at the Sandy relief bill, the $9 billion. How much pork was jammed into it and passed, and all these different states get different things. And it wasn't, not all of it. Listen, you're going to pass a bill, Hurricane Sandy relief, it better go to just people that are affected by the hurricane.
Yeah.
But no, it's pork-ridden. It's jammed full of stuff. And I know they cut a lot out because the first time it came out, everyone went crazy. But it's still in there. And that's the problem we have, is we aren't electing people who are doing it to lead the country. We're electing people who want power.
We're not electing principled leaders.
No.
We've talked about that before. That would be so awesome. If you're an attorney, you can't run for office.
Oh, my goodness.
And like, make something else in there that laws cannot be more than 2 pages, double-spaced, typed.
Yeah.
What do you think?
And I'll even go...
Because if you can't put it in 2 pages, it doesn't need to be a law.
I'll even go one step further. Absolutely zero Greek in it.
And Roman.
And
you can't use Roman numerals.
No Roman numerals. Yeah. Everything has to be spelled out. Nothing can ever be metric.
You know,
go by the American system.
How's about this? How's about everything has to be in Pig Latin?
or finally, something the lawmakers can understand. Everything has to be words in 10 letters or less.
Oh, something I thought you were going to say everything has to be in bullshit. Which it is already, so that wouldn't change.
So I called it, and it happened. Guess who's on the line?
Who?
Rooster.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I'm not going to take a break for this call.
Hey, Rooster.
Rooster, what's going on?
What's up, gentlemen?
Hey,
how are you?
What do you think about our revelation that the Second Amendment might not actually apply to women unless they're in the National Guard?
Well, if they can do 20 pull-ups like I can, They should be allowed to.
Hey, Rooster, can you send me a video?
I've already given you my comments on that. And first of all, it wasn't MF. It was, and for the record, Clint's already dropped the F-bomb, so it was go fuck yourself.
Same thing. I like my version better. And hang on a second, Rooster.
With that said, though,
we didn't talk about the
legal
Rooster, hang on a sec. We didn't talk about the legal definition of militia when we had the women in combat talk.
That's true. I mean, I only have so much space.
No, you don't.
You have to
keep
things concise, or people won't read it.
Yeah, that's true.
Boehner's not a dictator. He's just a dick.
You know what? I've never seen, and I said this a couple weeks ago, and I will absolutely stand by this statement, I've never seen somebody pander more with hopes of running for the White House. I think he is completely doing...
There is no way I'm voting for Boehner.
No, I agree with you, but I think he is trying to set himself up for a run. Because look,
you know what he is?
Look at what he's going to do with this now.
He's a pant shitter.
Absolutely. That's all he does.
Yeah.
But here's what he's going to play this now. I was involved in getting two parties that were nowhere near getting together, and we were going to go off that fiscal cliff, and I was able to broker the deal between us and the left and got it done. Look at what a great communicator I am. I'm shaking my own hand right now to prove it.
So you're saying it's going to be a Boehner Cantor ticket?
I'm so glad the three of us got that joke. I don't think anybody else would have. No, and I bet you when it comes to
Sean, you should stop predicting anything. I remind you that you were a fan of governor of New Jersey at one time.
I'm still I am still a fan. I don't necessarily. Huh?
I'm not.
Did you say not?
He's not.
Oh, you're not.
No.
But what politician do I agree with everything that they do?
Sarah Palin.
All right. So what other politician?
Me.
You're not a politician yet.
I'm freaking running. We already talked about this.
2015, Sackhead Clint for president.
And I'm the Secretary of State.
Oh God, no! I'm gonna. You know what? I want you to be press secretary.
I thought I was the press secretary.
Oh, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful.
Oh gosh. No, you know what? I agree.
But you have to go on stage every day with a scotch in your hand.
He doesn't drink.
I'll do that and just picture who was the coach that said we play the game to win.
I believe
we play to win the game.
George Washington.
Who I'm talking about.
I don't know.
No, and I heard what you said about George earlier. Fuck you.
See, the F-bomb again. Brewster, you're in a safe place. You know that. You're in a safe place. You don't need to have the language.
I don't need to have the language yet. Your cohort says I marched with Washington.
Well, hang on a second.
No, that was me.
That was only after my partner said that you were there for the Revolutionary War. I don't know if you caught that part.
Oh, okay.
Rooster.
Well, listen. I have a couple things to say, and then I have to let you go because I'm dog tired. I've had a good week. I missed your last two shows. I spoke to Al Gore today.
Did you really?
You did.
I did.
How'd that go?
I turned my heat up to 70, but I told Al that I'm going to pee outside and skip a flush so I can pay it back.
Nice. And don't fart because you'll exceed your emissions allowance.
I've now given up on RB. I'm going after Michael Moore.
Okay.
Who recently wrote an article that he does not respect the troops. So fuck him.
Does that surprise you?
No, it doesn't. But I'm going to give him a daily tweet.
Nice.
He needs at least one.
Yeah, he does. I unwittingly said something very provocative to Andrea Kay today.
You did do that. And actually, I think Clint's going to ask a good question. Are you declaring ideological war?
That's exactly where I was going to ask.
Against Michael Moore?
Yes, I am.
Okay. We have an ideological war going on right now with Chris Matthews.
They're one and the same.
Well,
okay, so go ahead. I know where you're going with this.
We're allies.
Yeah.
We are now allies in our ideological war. Conservative Outcry and Sackheads Radio will support each other and give whatever we need to do to better
aid and comfort
our allies. So on another level, we are again combined.
I appreciate that.
You had to think about that. It sounds like you took a long pull of gin and swallowed really hard, and then said,
"If you said it, Clint, I'd be all for it." But Sean, he's
a little weak.
He means well.
Wow.
Hey, Rooster.
Wow.
Yes.
Rooster, we commit our resources to your good fight.
I appreciate that. You don't watch the Twitter. Sean, I guess I have to take Sean's help.
No.
Sean?
You don't have to take help. It's fine.
Oh, no. See, I can help in other ways, but I'm a researching machine. We can dig up some dirt.
All right, well, I gave you an assignment earlier, but Sean forgot to ask you about it. It had to do with the 14th Amendment.
We ended up getting to that really early in the show.
We actually got to it. And
did you? I tuned in a little bit late.
Okay, Section 5 actually specifically gives Congress the authority to enforce that. Nothing is mentioned at all in the 14th Amendment about that. Matter of fact, Section 4 talks about the national debt and so forth, but Section 5 specifically says that Congress has the authority to enforce that. So
I understand that, and I fully agree with you, but it was an article in the Washington Post today.
Oh, yeah, no, there is nothing in the 14th Amendment that has anything to do with the president having a full authority or partial authority, even in Section 4 over anything. It's all Congress. You know what's funny is when I can give an 8-year-old a copy of the Constitution and say, hey, read this. Okay, now what does it mean? And they can tell me exactly what they mean, but then we have media organizations and politicians and judges that freaking try and spin it and give a million different meanings or reading into it or make it try and say whatever they say. I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
And that test was
I think it's humorous.
Yeah, it's sad.
Nothing, Tucker. Go back to the computer.
Go back to sleep.
Hey, Rooster,
let's go back to the fiscal cliff.
What are your thoughts? Let's hear them.
Well, nobody's talking about. Well, first of all, $450,000 or $400,000 a year.
Yeah.
Now, for everybody in between the coasts, that's not a lot of money, but they really don't care about those people. I can tell you that in the Washington D.C. area, $450,000 or $400,000 is not rich.
No.
You're not living in a mansion on $400,000 and throwing a couple kids and 2 people that work and have to travel, back and forth.
And pay taxes on that.
You're not making a lot of money.
And pay taxes on that.
And gasoline.
And pay taxes on that, right.
It's part of the inflation. I mean, you know what? Back in the late 70s, $400,000 a year was a lot of money. But now with the inflation the way it is and just the economy the way it is, it's really not.
So, but nobody's talking about that almost 1% Medicare surcharge that kicks in at $200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, and why aren't they? And
that's what, $2,000 a year, right?
I'm trying to look at. I have that note in front of me here somewhere, but I think you're right. It's $200,000 a year.
And Lord help you if you have any investments at $200,000 because you got a 3.8% surcharge coming on those if you got any money coming back. So dividends.
Again,
so don't get old and retire.
Yeah, don't get old and retire. Don't sell stocks. Don't have capital gains. He's going out there and he's acting like the president is, acting like he is some sort of hero for the middle class
I want to ask Rooster a question. Rooster, I think it was FDR that made it a crime for people to hold gold. And do you think that the federal government, because there is a push right now in the private sector for people to purchase, gold, silver, platinum, precious metals, and to have that in their portfolio, and a lot of people actually are doing that because they think the dollar is going to collapse and that'll be a means to barter. Do you think that the government, Obama, might try and push for something like that again in order to try and hold that wealth, that metal wealth, at the federal level?
Put it past him.
I wouldn't put anything past him.
I wouldn't put it past him either.
That's the
I just wanted
part.
to get your thoughts on it.
And he would mask it. There's a couple different angles he'd probably go at it.
Yeah, and one is because healthcare, we don't want to take care of people with back injuries, and metals are so much heavier than paper dollars that in order for their health, they can't possess it. What do you think? Is that a good argument? What?
It's about as good as anything I've heard to date.
It's coming. Rooster, what else have you found disgusting about the fiscal cliff, or this fiscal cliff deal? I should say.
Here's where I'm going with this. $400,000 a year, but if you're married, it's $450,000. Now that makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
You know what it is? That is clearly a direct attack on women, because look, if they only think that a woman cannot make more than $40,000 or $50,000 a year before they start taxing and taking from her, that is ridiculous. And if they're saying that the woman can make $400,000 and the man cannot make more than $50,000 before they start taking a lot of money, then clearly it's a war on men.
Well, no, it's a war on marriage, because we all know. So go out, have sex. We're going to give you free contraceptives so there's no mistakes, but we want you to propagate. But don't get married, because children from broken homes, they grow up so well. They shoot people in Newport, don't they?
Yeah, well, they can't.
What they also are, other than crazy murderers, is they're Democrats.
Well.
So this is their way of staying in power. They don't want people to marry. There's always been a marriage penalty out there. It's been around for years, but not to this extent.
I can remember, this not that much different with my parents years ago, and it's been going on forever. For as long as the workforce equalized a lot more, and it wasn't just the husband goes to work and the wife stays home raising the kids. Once that all started to equalize, they really started going after it, because they said, hey, you know what, these people are making too much money and they're enjoying their funds way too much.
You know what's ridiculous? What is in California? You can have a couple that gets married, has kids or whatever, and then get divorced, and the woman can collect as a single mother state benefits, go to school, get a lot of things paid for, and then they can reconcile, not get remarried. And it's fraud is what it is, but they can continue to get these benefits and so forth from the state that they would not have otherwise been eligible to receive.
Well, if there's a way around paying for something, people are going to find it.
Yeah. Maybe the state needs to start looking for a way not to pay for things.
Can you buy iPads with food stamps in California?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, yeah, it's Apple, food, Apple,
yeah,
food stamps, Apple.
Good.
There you go.
How could you not?
Good call.
You know what I mean?
I like it.
I actually think I saw that in they have the little stamps next to the food stamp approved thing. I actually thought I saw that in Best Buy. So
we're up against the break.
Rooster, we got to take a break. Are you hanging around or are you taking off?
I'm going to take off. I'd probably go to bed in a few minutes. Read my latest. Let's Get Drunk and Screw. That's I rewrote.
So why do you have to say that you're going to bed and then you tell us let's get drunk and screw?
No. I rewrote the Pledge of Allegiance.
That's pretty much what you said. We can play it back if you'd like.
I also told Andrea Kay that I come first too.
Hey, he's out of control again, Rooster. You see what happens? You see what happens when you call in? You insult me, and then he jumps all over you.
Yeah, I know he does. No, I'm not. And you know I'm not going away. I'll be in the chat room, but really read my latest. I think you'll like it. It's all about the marriage thing. I really dislike the marriage thing. And by the way, being the political genius that I am.
Oh, okay.
Much like I predicted the outcome of the election way before the election came about, I also predicted what would happen with the fiscal cliff. That the true conservatives will vote no, which they did.
Right.
But the Republicrats will, continue their ancestral relationship with the other side, and the bill will pass.
Well, you're 2 for 2 there. You're some sort of political mystic. You know that?
I am.
Hey, Rooster, and now it makes sense to me why you didn't catch you said you came into the show late, so you didn't catch the first part of the discussion on the militia. You might find it interesting if you wanted to listen to the first few minutes of the show later on this week.
Well, I'll listen to it tomorrow. I still haven't gotten to Santa yet. I had questions for Santa. I wish I would have called into that show.
Well, we'll see if we can get Santa's now. He's in the off season. Maybe we can have him come back and talk.
Santa's on vacation for a few months. He actually left us his contact information, so we may be able to get him back in.
Well, Santa's a socialist,
That's not true. Santa came.
It is true.
Exactly.
He gives to everybody.
No,
but he doesn't. He gives coal to people who are naughty.
Right. He's not a socialist. He's actually just very generous because he lives in a place that he's not forced to give his stuff away.
Exactly. He does it out of the goodness in his heart, which makes him a conservative. He's not forced by legislation to do it.
Yeah, he lives up there with Sarah, right?
Yeah, as a matter of fact. See, he's in good company.
So he's not a socialist. Thank you for defeating your own argument.
Hey, Rooster,
all right, guys.
Love you. Everyone check out conservativeoutcry.net. The latest from Rooster. Let's get drunk and screw. Sackheads Radio. We're going to take a break, come back, and we'll, who knows what we're going to talk about.
How you doing? John Grant here. When I'm not slaving over a hot microphone on the 405radio.com Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern, I check out Sean and Clint here at Sackheads Radio. We all appreciate the best political bloggers, writers, and commentators. We either get them on our shows or we make fun of them, as it should be. So check us out live Saturdays at 10 a.m. Eastern or forever on the podcasts on the 405radio.com.
Hey folks, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our first responders, law enforcement, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel. Thank you for all you do. Thank you for making this country and our communities a better and safer place. God bless.
Hi, this is Sarah Marie Brenner. We often talk on the Brenner Brief about the fact that there really needs to be an organization to help people at the local level who are interested in running for things like school boards, city council, and other local offices. Well, I think I finally have the solution for you, at least for you women out there. It's called Politigal Network, Politigal Network.com. Their website's going to be launching mid-August, but they're already on Twitter at PolitigalUSA. I encourage you to follow them and become a member. Their goal is to be the #1 resource for conservative women. So if you love freedom, liberty, the United States of America, and politics, check out PolitigalNetwork.com or Twitter at PolitigalUSA.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I know I've said it before. Check out our friends at conservativeoutcry.net, but I really mean it. You want interesting and exciting political commentary and analysis? that is the place to get it. Different, always spot on, always truthful, never pulling a punch. ConservativeOutcry.net. Tell Rooster to get Bulldog back on and that Sackheads Radio sent you. And also, coming soon, the Sackheads Radio Forum on ConservativeOutcry.net.
Hey guys, it's Sean from Sackheads Radio. I want to talk to you a minute about our friends over at HomefrontHugs.com. They're an amazing organization of volunteers who take their time, effort, and money to take care of our troops overseas as they serve our great nation. HomefrontHugs.com. You can donate, write letters to troops, adopt a troop, you name it, you can do it. Help those wonderful folks who protect our freedoms. Go to HomefrontHugs.com. Tell them Sackheads Radio sent you.
Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women in uniform of the armed forces. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank our men and women. Hey, this is Sackhead Clint. I want to take this opportunity to thank the men and women of our armed forces, as well as our... God.
You going to mention me this time?
Thank you, Sean. You said mention you, right?
Oh.
You totally need to keep that as an outtake.
Now back to Clint and Sean on Sackheads Radio, radiating elegancy and quality.
We are back from the break. 347-205-9399. Anything you want to talk about, feel free to call in. Sacco is finally on the phones. He's the best color man in the business.
Where was he?
Sacco? I don't know. He just disappears.
He's
Where did he go? The show. He's supposed to be the electronics guru. We get set up, we get rolling, I turn, and he's just gone.
Is he a ninja?
He is like a ninja. I think he went through the roof. I didn't even hear the door close.
Should we call him Sackja?
But I'll tell you what, my car keys are missing. So really? I don't know what's going on.
Is there a fifth, like in its place?
Sackja, got us again. Thank you for Rooster for the call. That was, as always, insulting to me. I love how he goes after me, and this is funny, is he got on me about Christie, but this is the same guy, and Rooster...
Who's Christie?
Chris Christie.
Okay.
Governor Christie. But wasn't he the same one who sat here and said, hey, you know what, we like George Bush overall, but we didn't agree with everything he did?
What does that have to do with anything?
What I'm saying is I like the man overall. That doesn't mean that I like every single thing.
You talking about Rooster?
Chris Christie.
Oh.
It doesn't mean that I like everything he's done.
Rooster is upset at Chris Christie because Chris Christie gave Obama a lot of props and some push at a critical time in the election.
I agree. That was poor timing.
It was. And now it's up to you if you want to defend Christie and say, hey, listen, the state was going through a lot. He needed to not show partisan. He's governor of the state. That's where his responsibility lies over his responsibility to party. And if that's your point of view, which I think it is, then that's actually kind of a principled thing to do, and we have to respect that.
I absolutely respected that.
The other side of that is, hey, is his duty to the country as a whole more important than the duty to his specific citizens? And that's the other side of the argument. But I would agree that his responsibility is to his state.
Yeah, I look at, and we get into the argument about states' rights into that thing. I look at his, I look at that he had to do that for the people of his state, and that's what his people of his state was reeling. Hurricane Sandy was a major storm,
and they love him,
and they do love him. They really, you know what? I didn't know how that was going to go when he was elected, and him coming in and really being against unions and cutting money and all that stuff, and he's really won over a lot of people in that state, and he's got even Democrats in that state speaking well of him and voting on his bills. I think he's done a great job. Yeah, you know what? To say that it was ill-timed politically when he said what he said, and he went on TV, and as I believe Brewster just put it in the chat room, humped Obama's leg.
I just got a great visual.
I know.
So you know. Everybody right now, close your eyes and just visualize that.
Governor Christie humping President Obama's
leg. I wish we knew a cartoonist, because that would be a great cartoon to put out.
But I don't think that affected the overall outcome of the election. I think the election was going to go the way it went anyhow. I think, though, that it shows that he was man enough, like you said, to stand by his principle and say, hey, I got to take care of my people.
I actually think it helped Obama. I think Romney actually had a decent run going in and then Hurricane Sandy happened, took a lot of the wind out of his sails. Not to make a bad joke, but that actually was no pun intended. But I think Obama was making a run up to that point. He never energized the base. That was always going to be a problem. But I think it had an impact on the election. I do. That's just my own personal 2 cents worth.
I don't think it impacted enough. And again, I think as governor, it's his job to defend the people of his state and take care of the people of his state.
I agree with you. I'm not debating that. Why are you yelling at me right now?
Because I'm mad.
You're mad at Rooster. Don't take it out on me.
Well, he hung up the phone.
What? He's still in the chat room.
I know.
Yell at him now. He can't yell back. And if he does call in, you have the button.
I do have the button. I said that during one of the calls tonight.
You take this abuse. You know what?
I take it because I love Rooster. And I know he needs to vent. And I know, sometimes I just have to be that ear that listens for him. And I'll be there for you, Rooster. You know that.
So I want to get your thoughts on something.
Oh my!
What should Congress do about the post office?
Oh,
look, the post office is it now. Hang on, it is established, right?
Mm-hmm.
Federal. Ben Franklin was the first postmaster in the United States.
Absolutely,
but they lose something like $25 million a day.
Yeah.
And that's not an exaggeration. I believe that's the actual figure. Yeah. And look, more people are communicating via email and Twitter and text messaging, and a lot of people send parcels through private companies like UPS, FedEx, and
places that give better prices.
What? Stop! Stop with this whole competition thing. Everybody gets a trophy. So what do you think? What do you think Congress should do? This they lose $25 million a day. That's $16 billion a year.
Well, let's start with a few things. Number one, and I've said this before, and this is going to seem silly to a lot of people, but it's
now. Hang on, just for effect. Sean is not pointing a little sausage finger in my direction. I am getting the full bladed hand vertical point. All four fingertips extended and rigid as if in a rigid salute and jamming my direction.
We have 14 minutes left. People don't care about my hand signs right now.
I just wanted to set the tone because you're still angry.
My first thing with the post office is we spend all this money on their uniforms, and I know this is going to sound
My carrier shows up in shorts and a polo, and it's not anything official.
My carrier showed up, I kid you not, at one point, wearing a Yankees T-shirt, and at which point he and I had words. All right? Now, granted, I had to pick up my mail from now on in the middle of the street, and that's fine. It was worth the argument to me.
And you put that Boston sticker right on the outside of your mailbox.
But I think that's a telltale sign of what's wrong in the post office. They can't even get them to wear the uniforms that we pay for. You and I, our tax dollars pay for those uniforms. So you look at, and just from a business point of view, you look at UPS and FedEx. They show up to your office or they show up to pick up, always in the uniform, always look good. The trucks are always clean. Everything's nice. It's a pleasant interaction. You go to the post office, and unfortunately, half the time, you have very miserable people. Half of them aren't in uniform. The place seriously looks like it's still a war bunker. There's stuff falling off the walls. What is my inspiration to want to go there when I can call UPS or FedEx cheaper, have them come to my house? They're always pleasant, always polite, as opposed to a lot of the postal employees who are not. And I'm not saying every postal employee. Yes, there are ones that wear the uniform. There are ones that are pleasant. There are ones that enjoy their jobs. I'm talking about the guy wearing the Yankees shirt and the hat, baseball hat on backwards. It's driving around the mail truck that looks like it just rolled over 5 times.
Okay.
It's dirty. Half my mail is not. When I've got mail that says "Do not bend," family photos and stuff that literally is creased in half. Never had that with UPS. Never had that with FedEx.
Right.
I've never had those issues that I have with the post office. And they have the very mentality of, you're not going to get rid of me, I'm going to be here, so what does it matter? Okay. It's a management issue top to bottom. Like everything else. They look awful. The office looks awful, and the service is often terrible.
So, look, it's enshrined in the Constitution that there is a postal clause in the United States Constitution, and the original intent of that has kind of been debated as, hey, does Congress have the power to designate mail routes and construct and designate post offices with the implied authority to carry and deliver and regulate mail as a whole? And in the early part of the 19th century, the Supreme Court has actually construed that power to be very narrow, saying that, well, no, that simply means that they can designate roads and sites for use for carrying post.
Mm-hmm.
And that obviously has expanded and so forth, and now they have, postal power. They have their own police officers. I don't know if people know that. They actually have cops.
Yeah.
Well, they're postal inspectors, but they are federal police officers.
Yeah.
And it's really kind of expanded. So, do you go back to perhaps, hey, you know what, Congress can designate these roads and sites to where post can be carried, and really the intent was to kind of maintain communication throughout the states. So, hey, you know what, maybe you maintain these roads and sites, but private entities can use them. I don't know. How do you do that? Because obviously it's failing, and we can't lose $25 million a day. Are you kidding me?
No, not with our deficit the way it is.
And if it is in the Constitution, which it is, maybe we need to look at, again, the original intent of that and take it back from a large bureaucracy, see if there's some of it that we can privatize and go ahead with the authority Congress has to maybe just establish roads and places for use by private entities.
Why don't they start with cleaning themselves up? And I know
Congress?
No,
I agree.
Yeah, Congress first. No, and I know it sounds silly, but tightening the ship. Stop all the waste that's in the Postal Service. You can't tell me there's not a ton of waste. I'm okay without Saturday service, and I've said that before. The one day doesn't matter, but to open up the entire postal office for the office is open, half a day, and the drivers are out there all day. How much money is that costing us? 1 day a week, 52 weeks out of the year, versus keeping them at home. It needs to be restructured. They need a new boss who's going to come in and tighten the ship and say, no, you know what, you will be productive.
Are they unionized?
The federal employees, I don't know if they're unionized.
I don't know either.
I know it's a big civil service job. Like, it's a big deal if you get in the post
I would be
office.
surprised if they weren't, but I don't know.
I don't know off the top of my head. But you need a boss who's going to come in there and say, we need to cut this ridiculous amount of waste. And there is. Don't tell me there's not. It's humongous. It's one of the biggest government agencies out there. There's a ton of waste that just top to bottom, it's run poorly. And if you're looking to save money, for me, that would be a place that I would start. $25 million a day. I don't know what the math on that is a year. I can do it real quick.
I think it's $16 billion.
Yeah. So we're losing $16 billion a year. Let's clean that up.
I used to have a job where I actually worked like the night shift, and I would go. There was a bar, and once or twice a month, some of the folks on the night shift would get together and have a drink or two after work before we headed home. And this one bar we went to, little kind of hole in the wall place. It opened at 6 a.m. and we would get there about 6:30, and there would be a postman in full uniform every time we went there. And granted, we were only there. We were only there like I said, once, maybe twice a month. But every time we were there, he was there, same guy, and he'd sit in the same seat. And he'd be drinking the entire time we were there. We wouldn't stay for too long, but it was kind of funny. But that was before they were losing $25 million a day.
So $25 million a day, and this is based on 365 days of the year. I didn't cut it down to working days, holidays, and all that stuff.
Okay.
$9 trillion.
$9 trillion.
9.125.000.000 commas rather. $25 million a day, right? And that's not, but the post office is closed on every federal holiday, all that stuff. But there's a lot of money wasted there. How many guys are at the bar drinking? I don't know.
I know of one.
I know of two because I watch Cheers. And he's really smart, sort of. But that shows you how many federal agencies there are waste, and that's just one of them. You start spreading it out, and they're so worried about the fiscal cliff. Was the post office brought up anywhere on this? Like, hey, we need to start getting them to save money? No.
Okay, I found out where I got the figures from.
Okay. Where did you get those figures from?
It was an article I read earlier. It was on Fox Business.
Okay.
And it looks like it was a Reuters article that was published January 4th. And so earlier today on the East Coast. But what the article says is that last year, $16 billion was lost by the Postal Service, and that the Postal Service loses $25 million every day. So that's where I got those numbers from, and that was the article that I got it from. I just found it.
That's money well spent, America.
Yeah. Hey, good job, Congress. You control the purse strings.
Yeah, you could absolutely do that. Real quick from the chat room before we start closing up the show, they are union. In fact, their benefit package is separate from the rest of the federal government, says Rooster. So.
Oh, good.
So they're actually outside the regular retirement system.
I wonder what kind of retirement system they're in.
Their own, I bet you. So it once again shows you a huge government agency that's just riddled with waste.
It is. However, this one is actually authorized by the Constitution.
It is.
The postal. There's a postal clause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that's still more than a lot of the other government
there's
agencies.
a foundation there.
Right. There's at least something in the Constitution, but it's not like the, the IRS or the FBI.
Well, there's taxation. There's the powers of tax. FBI, I like that one. Yeah, there's nothing in there about the FBI.
No. But yet they're everywhere. Just turn on a press conference.
Listening to us right now.
Oh, yeah. Hi, guys.
Hey. How's it going?
It's nice to be back. I'm glad that you had a good holiday and a good New Year.
Yeah, you too.
I can't wait for what 2013 is going to bring. As we speak, we're working on the new iPhone app.
That's right.
When I say we,
this is a team effort, Sacco.
Yeah, there's no I in team, buddy.
But there is in win.
All right, so there is in win. And there's also 3 letters, 3 of us. Sacco's working on the new iPhone app as we speak. We're hoping to roll that out here shortly. As always,
I didn't realize we were 2 different entities. I didn't realize it was Sackheads and then Sacco.
Right. I
thought he was a Sackhead.
I thought we were one show. I didn't realize we were like the production team,
right? The
development team, and then the on-air personalities.
But I get where he's going with this. Maybe he's going like a whole separation of powers thing.
No, that's fine.
Which is fine. There's 2 of us.
We pay the bills around here, Sacco. No, wait a minute. We may not pay the bills around here. It's our nice melodic voice that really gets things done. Hey, thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you very much. Sackhead Clint.
This is Sackhead Sean. Check us out at sackheadsradio.com.
Sackhead Sacco.
This is Sacco in the corner. Sackhead Sacco, the guru of electronics. We'll see you next Friday night at this time.
Maybe.
No, we'll be here.
Yeah, we'll be. Well, you'll be here.
I'll be here.
I will probably be here.
Hopefully the flight will land in time.
There might be a new song.
I hope so.
New music next week from Sacco, he said.
We will not be held responsible for any hearing impairments or damage caused to you from excessive exposure to this sound.